how to mend a damaged relationship with a customer or client if it was solvable. Now, there was a time where I was a wedding photographer and I double booked a wedding client. Now, this is not anything that you ever want to do to a bride. A bride's day is her day. She gets one of these in her life, or everybody hopes you get one of them in your life. And so I can tell you all the reasons why it happened. She ended up switching her date and it wasn't cataloged correctly on my calendar and I already booked another wedding. And so it was literally like a week before the wedding and I realized that I have 2 weddings on the same day. And that is the day that I thought, oh my God, my career as a photographer was over. I was so desperate. I literally went so crazy. My mind wasn't thinking straight. I turned to my husband, my business partner, and I told him, I'm going to send my twin sister, Bianca, and she's going to shoot one wedding and I'll shoot the other. I swear to you, I'm so embarrassed to even say that that's what I thought, but I was so panicked. I had to mend that relationship. I had to make it right. So I did. Welcome back to the Jasmine Star Show, a place where we discuss business mindset and today, how to turn unhappy clients into evangelists. Yeah. It's possible. In fact, there is a theory called the service recovery paradox, and this concept was proposed by Ronald Oliver. It suggests that customers may actually be more satisfied with a company after a service failure is successfully resolved compared to a situation where no failure had occurred. Okay, so here's a little bit of a story. I signed up for a new gym, and when I signed up, I got a free training session, and I had set my training session for 5 a.m. And the crazy thing was, when I went, they said, okay, your trainer's gonna be upstairs. And so I'm waiting. It's like 5:10, 5:15. I go back downstairs and I said, hey, like the trainer's not there. And he said, no, he's here. And he described him and I said, oh, I went back upstairs. The trainer was working with somebody else. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. I think that I have a training session with you. And he said, no, you clearly don't because I'm training somebody else right now. Like those are his exact words. And I'm like, okay. So then I go back downstairs and I said, you know, the trainer that I was set up for with my training session, he's actually with somebody else. And they said, we don't see how that's possible. And I was like, okay. So I, right there, had to self-serve my own solution. I was like, okay. So I just spoke to the trainer and he said I wasn't on his schedule because he's working with another client right now. And I was like, so I don't know what I should be doing. And they're like, okay, well, you know, we don't understand how this happened. So there was no apology. They didn't like sweeten the deal. Like, oh, hey, you know, you're supposed to get a 60-minute session. We'll give you a 75-minute session. Or, hey, we'll, anything. There wasn't even like anything to make it right. They were just like, okay, well, we'll just reschedule you. And I'm like, I just spent 20 minutes trying to solve my own problem based on like something I wasn't responsible for. So how am I going to trust that the same thing won't happen again? Like if I make another appointment at 5 a.m. for a training session, that the same thing's not gonna happen. I'm like, I don't feel confident anymore. I am not going back. And I'm not gonna be booking with those trainers. Now, let's be real. No matter how well you run your business, challenging client situations are bound to happen. There's a future Jasmine in your future. You know, they are. It's normal, we're normal. And whether it's a misunderstanding or unmet expectations or just something that just didn't go as planned, there are moments, and these moments are inevitable. And here's the thing. How you respond makes all the difference between losing a client and turning them into a loyal client or customer. In fact, these tough moments can be a perfect opportunity to show your clients just how committed you are to their success. So I'm gonna challenge you to shift your mindset. Instead of seeing them as setbacks, what would happen if you started to think of a client letdown as chances to build stronger, more trusting relationships that lead to success? This is exactly why in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to know if it's a solvable client experience or if it's time to cut the ties, a framework you can use to turn a challenging client experience into a win for them and you. And we're also going to cover how to assess the situation and how to create solutions in a way that leaves everyone feeling good. So how do you know if a client's problem is solvable or if it's time to part ways? You know your business and your clients best, but if you need help, I have a 4-step framework for you, and each step of the framework has 2 questions to answer. So 4 steps, 2 questions. The first step is to assess the situation honestly. The 2 questions you need to ask yourself in this step is number 1, is this a one-time issue or has there been a pattern? And question number 2, can this problem be fixed in a way that feels good to me? If you answered yes to at least one of those 2 questions, I want you to finish the framework. Step 2 is to gauge the relationship. The 2 questions you're going to want to answer here in this section is, number 1, has this relationship been a good experience for both of us up until this point? And question number 2, does the client seem genuinely invested in resolving the issue? Or are they more disengaged and they feeling a little defensive? If you answered yes to either of these questions, again, you're going to want to stay in the framework. So if you've assessed the situation and you have gauged the relationship, now the third step is to clarify expectations. If you've made it to this point in the framework, it means that there's still potential to salvage the relationship. But now it's all about setting clear expectations moving forward. The key questions to ask about clarifying expectations are: 1, were the expectations clear from the start? And question 2, do you have clear documentation that they understood the expectations? If you answered yes, use this situation to make any changes in the processes that could prevent this from happening again in the future. And if you answered no, is there a way to recalibrate and reset them right now? If the expectations were clear, but you didn't get the outcome that you had wanted, it's time to recalibrate. And if you can do that, you're gonna move to the final step. And that final step, which is a little ambiguous, it's to trust your gut. What were you hoping this framework would tell you? Michael Nolan said it best. There are 2 ways to make a decision. Flip a coin, and while it's in the air, you're gonna know exactly what you were hoping for. Do you want to work with this client? And if the answer is no, I promise you, there are more people out there who want and need your product and service than you could ever take on serving. We just used a framework to see if the client problem was solvable. Now, let's get into how to mend a damaged relationship with a customer or client if it was solvable. Now, there was a time where I was a wedding photographer and I double booked a wedding client. Now, this is not anything that you ever want to do to a bride. A bride's day is her day. She gets one of these in her life, or everybody hopes you get one of them in your life. And so I can tell you all the reasons why it happened. She ended up switching her date and it wasn't cataloged correctly on my calendar and I already booked another wedding. And so it was literally like a week before the wedding and I realized that I have 2 weddings on the same day. And that is the day that I thought, oh my God, my career as a photographer was over. I was so desperate. I literally went so crazy. My mind wasn't thinking straight. I turned to my husband, my business partner, and I told him, I'm gonna send my twin sister, Bianca, and she's gonna shoot one wedding and I'll shoot the other. I swear to you, I'm so embarrassed to even say that that's what I thought, but I was so panicked. I had to mend that relationship. I had to make it right. So I did. And I've been having to make things right, even if I didn't feel like I was wrong about situations. Now, let me tell you, that situation, I was wrong. I was dead wrong. It was a mistake on my end and I made it right. And both of the brides were very happy at the end of the day. But there have been other times in my career where I had to find ways to make it right. So what I want to share with you now is a 4-step process to repair damage with a client or a customer. Step 1, focus on facts, not feelings. Gather all of the relevant information from your client and your team to get a complete picture of what went wrong. But here's the thing, you must do it without placing blame. Instead of pointing fingers at them or at your team, at yourself, no. Try to understand the issue and especially take time to see things from the client's perspective. And you're gonna want to acknowledge their feelings. Even if we can apply logic to it, it's like a business thing, like logic, facts, feel. Okay, we're gonna acknowledge that we're gonna focus on those facts, but we're gonna also recognize how they feel because it's just as important for us to rebuild trust. We wanna honor their feelings and make sure that they feel heard and understood, but keep the facts as the center of the conversation. Step 2, apologize with empathy. You're probably thinking like, okay, Jasmine, yeah, I get it. But some people kind of dance around apologies. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying that your client is waiting to hear the words, I'm sorry, or I messed up. This isn't a situation in your personal life where you can just like apologize in your own way. You know, they give you your partner, your kids, your siblings, you're like, oh, you know how I apologize. No. You must own all of it with customers and clients. And when you do apologize, make sure to communicate with empathy and transparency so that you acknowledge how the client is feeling and not just the problem at hand. Here, I'm gonna give you an example so you can hear the difference. Imagine a client is unhappy because their project was delayed. And a dance around apology could be something like, it's clear that the timing wasn't ideal. That's not an apology. That's just saying, okay, it wasn't ideal. No. But an empathetic apology would be something like, I'm so sorry for the delay and the inconvenience it's caused you. I understand how frustrating this must be, and I want to make sure that you know that we're taking all the steps to ensure it doesn't happen again. Yes, this step might be super basic, but I had to include it because it's the most important. And I want to go back to like my gym experience. Like clearly I cannot let this thing go, right? Like if the manager had just said, if he had only said, I am so sorry, this was our mistake, and I will ensure that your next appointment is our main focus. If he would have said that, I would have totally have gone back. I would have trusted him. I wanted to be sold to. Like that's the crazy thing. Like I wanted this free session because I wanted to sit there through the sales cycle and I wanted them to sell me because the gym is really intimidating to me. I told JD that I felt like I was training in like the Ludi Gladiatorius, you know, like almost like where the what was his name? What's that movie? The Gladiator. You know, it's like where the gladiator was training. Like, you know, like we're all wanting to be gladiators, and then there's like we're going to fight in the Colosseum. Like all the guys in there, like they don't have necks. They walk around like their arms are out, like they can't even touch their sides, and they have like you know, it's like they walk around like they have like big cans of baked beans under their armpits, and they're like, and like I'm sitting there, I'm like, I wanted to be sold to so that the trainer can walk me around the gym and make me feel more confident. And nope, they lost my money. 1 star. Won't come back to your training. Right. If the manager had just said, we apologize and we're going to make it right, I think that would have made the biggest difference. Step number 3, create a solution that exceeds expectations. Now it's time to turn this situation around by going above and beyond. How can you show you're committed to making things right? This is what I recommend. Think of what would make them happy or what might they be expecting, and then go one step further. This is how you surprise and delight people. This can be a discount, a free service, a custom offer, but the key here is to personalize it so much for them, as much as you can. Here's an example. Remember that project that got delivered late? I know another example. Well, let's say the project was a branded video that didn't get delivered on time. That video editor could send a couple complimentary short form videos that are on brand for the business social media accounts. By providing something useful and personalized, that video editor just didn't surprise and delight them. They turned a potentially negative experience into a moment that strengthens that relationship. So let's go back to my gym situation. I know this is the last time I'm gonna bring it up. I promise your girl won't let it go. See, here's the thing. Just like my husband says, you never forget nothing. No, I don't. If the manager had offered a complimentary coffee or a smoothie at the gym cafe, listen, I am a cheap apology. You give me a $4.99 cup of coffee and great. They could have made $400, maybe even a little bit later, maybe even more if I had become a client. So let's talk about some key takeaways. Don't just fix the problem. Turn it into a memorable and positive experience. When people feel heard and valued, they're more likely to tell others about how you went the extra mile. And this turns a negative situation into an opportunity to build deeper trust with your customer. Now, this is our next and final step. That's step number 4, to reflect and improve your processes. Once you've completed the other 3 steps and mended the relationship, or you realize the relationship needed to end, it's fine, you can then focus on learning from the experience and streamlining your processes. And this is how. Start by analyzing what led to the issue and then how you handled it. For example, we were using an example about the delayed video. It could have been a communication breakdown. Maybe it was unclear timelines. Maybe an unexpected tech issue. Whatever the cause, take a close look where things went off track. Did you set clear expectations with the client? Were there gaps in the workflows or tools that caused the delay? Once you identify that root cause, I want you to document the lesson and then update your processes to avoid it again in the future. Next, we're gonna implement changes to prevent similar issues in the future. This means that we're taking our lessons and we're applying them to the future. So you're gonna use what you've learned and you're gonna tweak your process. For example, the video editor could add more regular check-ins with clients to keep clear communication, or build an extra time in their schedule for unexpected delays. Maybe they invest in better software, or create a more detailed onboarding plan to set expectations from the start. Whatever it is, take action to implement it before it happens again. And while negative client experience is, still fresh in your mind, take those lessons and apply them so they feel more real. Now, once you've made these updates, I want you to share them with your team so everybody is on the same page. And if you want bonus points, a little extra credit, you will get bonus points if you tell the previously unhappy client, hey, this is what I've implemented with me and my team to ensure that it doesn't happen again. So we can better remember these frameworks. I want to summarize what we have covered so far. To find out if you should mend the client situation, first, assess the situation honestly. Step 2 is to gauge the relationship. Is it something you want to pursue? Step 3 is to clarify expectations. And step 4 is to trust your gut. What did you want actually happening from it? If you got one thing from this episode, I hope it's to think of challenging client experiences as an opportunity to build stronger relationships and become a better problem solver and a better decision maker. By approaching these situations with a positive and proactive mindset, you can turn obstacles into stepping stones for growth. If this has helped you at all, thank you for listening and watching the Jasmine Star Show. And if for some reason the manager from the gym that I go to here in Orange County ever comes across this podcast episode, hey, I will take not one, but 2 free training sessions if you want to make it right. I know I said it was gonna be the last time I talked about it, but clearly I can't drop it. I can't drop it. I cannot drop it. Thank you for watching and listening to the Jasmine Star Show. This show has always been created for you. If you've learned one thing or taken something from it, if you would be so kind to leave a review for this episode, or you could share it with a founder friend who might benefit from these lessons and frameworks, I would greatly appreciate it. And as a reminder, if you found any of these topics that we discussed today here helpful, in the show notes, I link back to 2 other episodes that you will find helpful when it comes to these systems and frameworks. I love continuing to bring valuable content like this to you, to entrepreneurs, for free. I appreciate your time, your energy, and your attention greatly. Thank you for listening and watching the Jasmine Star Show.